Hi, good morning, dear students. We are going to see today a grammar lesson about the passive voice. If we say passive voice, it means that we have also active voice, because in English there are two voices. There are two voices. We have active voice and we have also passive voice. As an example of a sentence in the active voice, for example, Senegalese people elected the president. So here it is active. We have active voice because we have subjects, we have a verb, and here we have the object. Senegalese people elected the president is in the active voice. But now, we can have an example of a sentence in the passive voice. For example, the president was elected by Senegalese people. So here we have subjects, we have verb, and then this is what we call the agent. We have the agent introduced by the preposition by. That is the difference between the passive voice and the active voice. And there, most of the time, people think that we are going to talk about the use of the passive voice when we have to use it. People think that the use of the passive voice is only when we want to express the active voice in another way. That's not like that. It's not the way of reformulating the active voice to the passive voice. That's not like that. We can have an example which will show us that the passive voice is not only to take an active voice and turn it into the passive voice. If we have, for example, Matar becomes a teacher. Matar becomes a teacher. So here we have subjects, we have verb, we have also object. That's also the passive voice. That's active voice. But is it possible to turn the sentence into passive voice? It's not possible. We cannot say a teacher becomes by Matar. To show you that the passive voice is not only to take active voice and turn it into the passive voice. But now we are going to see when to use normally the passive voice. So we are going to see when we have to use the passive voice. Most of the time they say that the passive voice is used if who or what does the action is unknown. There is something done, but we do not know exactly who or what did the action, so here we use the passive voice. For example, as an example, this article was published yesterday. We read an article in the newspaper, but we do not know exactly who published the article, so here we cannot use passive voice. We are obliged to use the active voice, so we are going to say this article was published yesterday. If we know who published the article, we can add by or with. but we do not know. So here we use the passive voice. We use also the passive voice if we want to focus on the most important things that we are talking about. So here, if we use the objects of the passive voice, most of the time they say that it was the subjects in the passive voice, the subjects in the passive voice. Most of the time they say that it was the object in the active voice. So here we see that this article is the object or was the object in the active voice. But now with the passive voice it became the subjects. It means that the most important things that we have to retain here, or the focus is set into the word we have there, this article, the subjects. The subjects, this article is more important than to know who published the article. This article, the subject we have there, is more important to know who or what published this article. This is also when we have to use the passive voice. But now we are going to see the form, how to form the passive voice. How to form the passive voice. So if you want to make a sentence into the passive voice, we are obliged to use the auxiliary be. We are forced to use the auxiliary be. We have be plus past participle. For example, the lesson is written on the board. On the board by the teacher. The lesson is written on the board by the teacher. So here we have the auxiliary be. We have also the past participle. And then to move from active voice to passive voice, there is a rule. There is a rule. To move from active voice to passive voice. So here the most common rule that is kept is we use the auxiliary to be. To be, same tense with the verb in the active voice plus the past participle of the verb in the active voice. To be, same tense with the verb in the active voice and the past participle of the verb in the active voice. For example, Modu broke the cup. Modu broke the cup. Here we have active voice. We have active voice because we have subjects, we have verb, and we have also objects. It means that we have active voice. But now how to turn it into the passive voice? We said lately that to turn a sentence from active voice to passive voice, we use the auxiliary to be. Same tense with the verb in the active voice and the past participle of the verb. It will be something like that. The cup. To be, same tense with the verb in the active voice. The verb is here broke. Broke is the predicate of break. It means that we have here simple past. We used to be simple past. It will be was. Plus the past participle of the verb. To break, the past participle is broken. We have the cup was broken by Modu. We said lately that to form the passive voice, we use the auxiliary to be, same tense with the verb in the active voice and the past participle of the verb. We can have another example. Sally has bought flowers. Sally has bought flowers. We have active voice. You say that we use to be, same tense with the verb in the active voice. The verb is has bought. So we can have here flowers to be same tense. Here we have present perfect. Present perfect to have present simple and the past participle. Present perfect. So to be present perfect, it will be flowers have been. Flowers have been. And the past participle. That was to buy, the past participle is bought. We have flowers have been bought by Sally. But it can be a little bit difficult for the student if they have be going to. Be going to. So there, it's not difficult. It's not difficult. We can have an example. For example, my father is going to build a nice house. My father is going to build a nice house. We have the expression be going to. So here to turn it into the passive voice, we will have a nice house is going to be built. Built, the past participle. A nice house is going to be built by my father. If you notice, if we have the expression be going to, it will be like that. Be going to plus be plus the past participle of the verbs. Be going to plus be plus the past participle, that is what we are going to have if we see the expression be going to. But now, if you have the modal verbs, if you have modal verbs in a sentence, can or may or must, could, will, would, shall, something like that, this is what we call the modal verbs. So here also it's not difficult. We have modal plus be plus the past participle. Modal plus be plus the past participle. As an example, Samba can lift the chair. Samba can lift the chair. Samba can lift the chair. So here we have the modal can. To turn it into the passive voice, it will be the chair can be. Because we say modal plus be. We have can be. The chair can be plus the past participle to lift. It is regular. The past participle, we add ed. So it will be the chair can be lifted. Can be lifted by Samba. So still again with how to form the passive voice, we can have an interrogative sentence. So there, how to form the passive voice also we are going to see it. For example, did the students Did the students understand the lesson? Did the student understand the lesson? How to turn the sentence into the passive voice so that it is more sure for the student to do it by following the steps. We have to follow the steps to avoid mistakes. If you come and directly try to give the passive voice of the sentence, you can make some mistakes. So it is more sure to follow the steps. So the first step you have to follow here is that we have to turn the sentence into the affirmative form. So if we turn it into the affirmative form, it will be the student understood the lessons. The students understood the lessons. We have at first to turn it into the affirmative form. So there we have our sentence, which is active voice. And then the next step is, here we have the first step, here we have the second step. We turn the sentence into the passive voice. It will be easy. We use the lessons. To be, same tense with the verb in the active voice, understood, simple past. So we have word. And the past participle, we have understood by the students. So here we have passive voice. It is passive now. And then the last step, we put the sentence into the interrogative form, and if we do this, it will be easy. We have something like word, the lessons, understood by the students, question mark. Here we have the passive voice. The sentence, did the student understand the lesson? Active voice, the passive voice is here. Were the lessons understood by the students? So now we are going to end with the impersonal passive voice, what we call impersonal passive voice. So we are going to finish now with the impersonal passive voice, where most of the students have problems. But here it's only a question of practice. If the students keep on doing exercises about impersonal passive voice, there will not be difficult for them. We have here examples. For example, people say that Mori is a chief. We have two verbs. We have two actions. Two verbs, two actions. If we have two verbs, we can say that we have two clauses. We have main clause, that is people say. We have also subordinate clause, Mori is a chief. We have two verbs, two actions, we have two clauses. The main clause is here, the subordinate clause is here. So now, this is active. We have to turn it into the impersonal passive voice. So the subjects in the subordinate clause can be the subjects in the passive or impersonal passive voice. It is modu. But now to form it, that's not difficult. We use to be, same tense with the verb in the active voice, say. To be, say is present. To be, we have modu is. And the past participle, say, we have said. We have modu is said. And then we give the infinitive of the verb in the subordinate clause, is achieved. The infinitive will be to be achieved. Now we have our impersonal passive voice, which is modu is said to be achieved. We can have other example to show what we have explained lately. People told that the authorities took missionaries. We have two verbs, told, we have also took. But now the authorities can be the subjects as we have explained lately with this sentence, the authorities can be the subjects. It will be the authorities word. Word because we say that we use to be, same tense with the verb in the active voice and the past participle. We have to keep it in your mind. To be, same tense with the verb in the active voice and the past participle. To be, same tense, told. The infinitive is tell. It means that we have the preterite. We used to be simple past or preterite. It is word. The authorities word. And the past participle told. But now we have took, mituries. We have to give the infinitive of this verb. We have to take mituries. Our sentence is the authorities were told to take mituries. But then mituries here in this sentence. We have a sentence. The authorities took mituries. That's the sentence. Because we have subjects, we have verb, we have also object. It's a sentence. It can be the subjects in the impersonal passive voice, mituries. So here it is mituries were told. Now at first we have to turn this sentence into the passive voice. The authorities took mituries. We turn this sentence into the passive voice. We have subjects, verb, object. It will be mituries were taken by the authorities. That is what we have there. Mituries were taken by the authorities because we have used to be. Same tense with the verb in the active voice, took, plus the past participle of the verb take, we have taken. We have mituries were taken by the authorities. And then if mituries becomes the subjects in the impersonal passive voice, it will be like that. Mituries plus to be, same tense with the active voice, told. That is past. We have mituries were. And the past participle, told. But now what we have to do is to give the infinitive of this sentence. Were taken. Were taken, to give the infinitive, it will be to be taken by the authorities. So what we have to keep also into account is, if we are dealing with the passive voice or active voice, we have to be careful of the verbs we have there. Because we have transitive verbs, we have also intransitive verbs. With intransitive verbs, it's not possible to practice the passive voice. Intransitive verb, for example, to become or to go. Musa goes to Paris. We cannot say Paris is gone by Musa. Or Matar becomes a teacher. We cannot say a teacher is become by Matar. It's not possible because we have intransitive verbs. But if we have transitive verb, it's possible. For example, buy, make, put, or something like that. He makes tea. He makes tea. We can say tea is made by him. So there are some other things we have to learn about passive voice, and again also about the impersonal passive voice. So we have to see it into the WhatsApp group. We are going to finish the lesson here. Thank you and take care.